everyone, my name is Alicia and I want to welcome you to this Clip Studio Paint tutorial. Today I want to be deep diving together with you into the art of painting captivating skies. Before jumping into the details, let's take a moment to reflect about the skies being more than just a backdrop. In fact, I find they are a super powerful tool to create depth and to set the mood of a scene. A clear blue sky can help us evoke happiness, whilst the dark, stormy one could build a sense of drama and tension. When we're thinking about understanding the colors of the sky, skies transition beautifully from warmer tones near the horizon towards more cooler colors and saturated hues as you look higher into the sky. I've created 2 gradient layers in Clip Studio Paint. These are super easy to make in this software. I'm currently using the Clip Studio Paint Pro tablet version, and you can create this so easily in this software. Like literally just create new layer and add a gradient layer, and you can choose your colors and adjust the intensity and the degree with the sliders that you see here. You can then overlay and transform the gradient to see its impact on your scene, like I'm doing here. Even once you've done that, you can still transform the scale of your gradient and then play with this, and you can see the impact that they have on your scene. It's fascinating. If we pay attention, skies are filled with subtle colors. The blue we associate with the sky is actually sunlight that is scattering in the atmosphere. This is an important fact for adding impactful touches when we are creating our masterpieces, just because blue light scatters more than other colors. So this is why we often tend to use it for applying shadows. When painting skies, it's good to think of them as a blend of blues, grays, and even light greens or purples, especially when we are hinting at the sun being there, being always present. By the way, important, hue, as I'm sure you know, refers to the horizontal movement on the color wheel. If I can draw your attention quickly to the color wheel, if I move my cursor left to right, I'm basically playing with the saturation. Saturation refers to the intensity of the color. And then if I move my color picker up or down the scale, I'm referring to value, which is basically showing the amount of light that I'm going to have in that hue, in this case, the blue. So in my gradient, as you can see, I've used the darker, more saturated blue at the top, and I've transitioned to a lighter, even greenish blue towards the horizon. This is going to be very useful to know, especially when I'm selecting shadows and highlights. In fact, very quickly to show you, I'm going to make some splashes here of color. I'm going to pick up currently the colors that I have, and I'm going to play with those to make my highlights and my shadows by just changing a little bit the saturation in the wheel, in the color wheel, and playing especially with the value. And remember, by playing with this, the saturation and the value shifts, even if in a subtle manner, I can still create a very good sense of distance, and that's what we want. And we usually, if we think about it, every time we are looking at clouds, we are looking up. So we'll mostly see their undersides or their bellies. I've created a simple perspective grid with some lines in a horizon line, departing from a horizon line, from just one point in the horizon line, to help me visualize the clouds as if they were 3D cubes. If I think of that, and I'm going to quickly create some cubes in space, the bottom of the cube will be the darker area, so that will be the belly. And then if I'm thinking of adding hues to my clouds, I can start thinking and increasing the amount of value in my color as I move towards the top of the cloud. Now, to build my clouds, what I'm going to be doing is, there are so many tools that you can be using here in this fantastic software, but I'm going to be using very basic brushes. I am actually going to be using a very basic round mixing brush, primarily, because it allows me for building upon the colors that I am going to be picking. And also with the sliders on the side of the color wheel, I can adjust the opacity of the brush, which will help me blend and mix colors directly on the canvas. And I think this makes my paintings a little bit more dynamic than just picking colors directly from the palette or from a swatch. On top of using the brush, I'm also, and I will not be shy about this, I'm going to be using the eraser. The eraser is going to help me to create gaps in the depths that I'm painting in these clouds, right? And also it's going to help me delete all those unnecessary shapes that I'm creating that are not serving me of anything and that potentially are drawing me away from my 3D cubes initial idea, right? I'm also going to start using this other technique, which is layer duplication. I am going to be duplicating what I'm creating. Once I'm liking it and there's something I like, I'm going to go to the layer, I'm going to duplicate that layer, and then I'm going to place it on top, and I'm going to start playing with the different blending modes. Like, for example, add glow, color dodge, multiply, and not just that. I am going to start creating even more depth by also playing with the opacity of the layer in itself. Once I'm doing this, and I need to start thinking, okay, what's closer to the viewpoint? It's going to be crisper than those farther away, and therefore I'm going to have to use some sort of blending, smudging tool. For this, Clip Studio Paint give us a set of blending tools here that you can see. I'm actually using blending, mainly I'm using blending with blur, but also with fingertip. I love both of them, and you will see me that very quickly some of those gaps and in between layers that I'm kind of building on top of each other, I start blending the colors, and then I'm going to be playing with the brush, and then I'm going to be playing with the eraser. So it's helping me make that cloud look more fluffy, more airy, and a little bit more real. So as I continue duplicating layers and placing them above one another and experimenting with the different blending modes and the blending tools, I slowly but surely start adding that sense of movement that I was referring to earlier on. And I think at some point when I'm confident, this is looking good and more or less where I want it, I just need to remove the cubes that I created initially. You could have done that before. For me, it was useful to not lose that sense of perspective and depth that I wanted to have. And also you can switch off the grid that I created. By the way, the grid is just a layer, as I said, with a line of the horizon, with a vanishing point from where the orthogonal lines are coming from. A good tip here as well, as we're building on top, layers on top, if you think that this is becoming overwhelming, you can start selecting those layers that you're confident with and they are in the right order. You can select them and start merging them. This will help you keep a clean workflow, which is always very useful. And before wrapping up this tutorial, two fun tricks. One, you could actually flip your sky upside down and check if it still feels believable, and even if it makes you feel a little bit dizzy. If this happens, it means that you are conveying a strong sense of perspective. The other tip I wanted to share, even add on a little bit of extra drama, is to include light rays. So for this, we can create a new layer. In fact, I'm going to use a soft watercolor brush, a large size with low opacity, and I'm just going to paint without thinking straight lines down the canvas. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the effect of rays coming down through the clouds with the eraser. And I'm going to go to the filter section and apply a Gaussian blur filter. After I do this, I'll adjust the layer's opacity, and also I will play with different blending modes. Again, potentially overlay, or sometimes for this one, screen is actually pretty good for a subtle effect. But anyhow, this is depending on how much and how strong you want the effect to look like, to know that there is something special there, but not necessarily being able to pinpoint what it is. So I like it very subtle. Furthermore, once I've done this, I'm actually going to use the transform tool, and I am going to use distort and adjust the rays direction. So it helps me point in the direction of the light as I want it, so I can control that. And then once I've done that, I move this layer under the cloud layers and blending with the smudge tool or the eraser, I'm going to start making sure that everything feels integrated and part of the same piece. Certainly, all of these techniques, if you experiment with them, they're going to help you refine your composition so much and help you create a much more natural flow, especially when we're thinking of concept art backgrounds and creating impactful landscapes. These resources are fantastic. I think that's it. We've covered a lot today, from atmospheric perspective and cloud painting techniques to color transitions and how to add light rays and making impactful and more dramatic backgrounds. So remember, the sky is your playground, so don't be afraid to experiment and find your own style. In fact, I'm going to show you here another version of the clouds I painted after I built the tutorial, just so you know that there's always room to keep adding and there's always room to stylize your painting and your scene. Also, you need to learn when to stop, right? So with this said, I would call it here. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. Thank you so much to Clip Studio Paint for giving me the opportunity to share this with you. And yeah, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to follow me on YouTube and share your creations. I challenge you, try and follow the tutorial and even with other type of gradients and see what you come up with. And I cannot wait to see the stunning skies that you're going to create. And until the next time, keep painting and let your creativity soar. Thank you so much.